Most people mistake power for position, influence for popularity, and dominance for aggression. They are fools. True power emanates from within, a carefully constructed psychological fortress that radiates authority without uttering a word. In the next few minutes, I will dissect the 6 pillars of Machiavellian presence: strategic silence, calculated unpredictability, emotional detachment, the illusion of omniscience, controlled intimidation, and the mastery of psychological distance. By the end, you will understand why some bend reality to their will while others remain forever subject to it. Power begins not in words, but in silence. Most people think authority is built by speaking loudly, commanding attention, and asserting dominance through sound. But true control lies in what you withhold. The moment you speak too much, you expose yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your limits. Yet when you stay silent, others project their imagination onto you. They fill the gaps you leave with mystery, respect, and sometimes even fear. Silence, in the hands of a wise man, is not emptiness, it is pressure. Niccolò Machiavelli observed that the most powerful rulers in history often spoke less than those beneath them. They didn't rush to explain, they didn't argue to be understood. Their silence became a mirror in which others revealed themselves. When you are silent, people start to talk, and when they talk, they expose everything. Their desires, their ambitions, their weaknesses. You, meanwhile, learn. That is the first secret of Machiavellian control. Silence sharpens your perception and dulls their confidence. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is speaking, laughing, trying to prove something. You, however, remain quiet, not shy, but deliberate. You observe, you measure, you wait. Slowly, people begin to notice. Their curiosity turns into unease. They start to wonder what you're thinking, who you are, what power you hold. You haven't said a single word, but already your presence bends the atmosphere. That is the silence of authority. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists, and others respond. When you speak, make it count. A powerful man chooses his words like a general chooses his battles. Carefully, rarely, and only when victory is certain. Speak with pauses. Let your words breathe. Let others hang on them. Don't rush to fill the silence after your own sentences. Let it echo. People will start to listen not because you talk louder, but because your silence makes them desperate to hear what comes next. Silence also grants you emotional dominance. When someone insults you, challenges you, or tries to provoke you, the weak respond instantly. They defend, justify, explain. The strong do not. The Machiavellian mind knows that silence disarms aggression more effectively than any outburst. When you respond with calm stillness, your opponent begins to doubt themselves. They question if they have overstepped. They sense danger in your quiet composure. The one who keeps his emotions under control owns the battlefield of perception. But let's go deeper. Silence is not just an act. It's an internal discipline. To remain silent, you must master your ego. You must resist the urge to prove yourself. Most people cannot handle silence because it feels like weakness. They rush to fill it, to be seen, to be validated. You must be different. You must learn to find strength in restraint. Machiavelli would say, appear wise by speaking little, and powerful by choosing when to speak. Every moment of silence should feel intentional, a pause heavy with meaning. There's also a psychological weapon hidden in silence. When you refuse to respond immediately, you create uncertainty in others. They start to overthink. They replay their words, wondering what you think of them. In negotiations, silence is deadly. Say nothing after they make an offer, and watch how quickly they begin to lower their own terms. Silence creates tension, and humans hate tension. They will move mountains to break it, often to their own disadvantage. And silence builds myth. Think of those who hardly speak, yet command enormous respect. Their mystery becomes their shield. People invent legends around those who reveal little. When you talk too much, you erase the mystery that could protect you. The fewer people know about your intentions, the less they can predict, and the harder it becomes to control you. To command power, you must be known enough to inspire awe, yet unknown enough to remain untouchable. Silence keeps that balance. Finally, understand this. Silence doesn't mean weakness or passivity. It is active control. It is the invisible hand that shapes perception. You are not retreating from communication. You are mastering it. You're letting others speak themselves into exhaustion while you conserve energy, observe patterns, and strike when the timing is perfect. Your quietness becomes a weapon so subtle, people never realize they're being influenced. So when you walk into the world, speak less, watch more. Let your silence carry gravity. People may not understand it, but they will feel it, and they will adjust their behavior around it. That is how the silence of authority begins to form, in restraint, in patience, in deliberate calm that others cannot imitate. A man's eyes reveal what his mouth tries to hide. They speak before words are formed, and they strike deeper than any speech could. When you meet someone's gaze, you are not merely looking, you are declaring presence. The weak look away first because they fear being seen. The powerful, however, hold their gaze, not to intimidate, but to remind others of something primal. Control belongs to the one who remains unmoved. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that power begins with perception. The ruler's gaze was a silent weapon, a mirror of his inner certainty. When a man's eyes are steady, calm, and unflinching, he radiates conviction. It's not aggression, it's authority. It says, I know who I am, and I know what I want. Those who lack such steadiness crumble under its weight because it exposes their hesitation. Look into history. Every great commander, every sovereign, every manipulator who held sway over others shared this trait. Their eyes carried a message that could not be ignored. They didn't dart around searching for approval. Their focus was unbreakable. When Machiavelli advised princes on maintaining respect, he implied that composure of the face, especially the eyes, could inspire either love or fear, depending on how it was used. The eyes, after all, are the windows through which people sense whether you can be dominated or not. To forge a commanding gaze, you must first conquer what lies within. Most fail because they let emotion leak through their eyes. Anxiety, uncertainty, the need to please. When you meet someone's gaze, do not think about what they think of you. Think about observing them, dissecting them, reading them. You are not there to be approved. You are there to understand. This shift in mindset changes everything. It transfers power from them to you. When you hold someone's gaze without blinking away, you send a silent message. I see you clearly, and people fear being seen. The moment you sense that fear, that micro-expression of discomfort, you've already taken the upper hand. You have entered their psychological space without moving a single muscle. That is the first step in bending people's will without force. You make them feel visible in a way that exposes them. Yet this gaze must be controlled. There is a fine line between dominance and hostility. A ruthless aura does not need aggression, it needs composure. Your eyes must not burn with anger, but with stillness, like deep water hiding unseen depth. Too much intensity, and you appear desperate to dominate. Too little, and you seem passive. The balance lies in calm certainty, eyes that observe without reacting, that remain present yet detached. Practice awareness in your gaze. When speaking to others, look at them as though you are studying a portrait. Not to judge, but to understand the smallest details of what they reveal unconsciously. You will notice nervous habits, flickers of insecurity, or flashes of arrogance. When you see these things without reacting, your silence combined with your gaze becomes unbearable for them. They will adjust their tone, posture, and energy to match yours. That's the invisible pull of authority. There's also power in how long you hold eye contact. If you look away too quickly, you show submission. But if you hold it too long without purpose, it becomes challenge. The secret lies in timing. Hold until you sense discomfort, then shift slowly, as though you lost interest, not because you were intimidated, but because you have already measured them. That subtle act of disengagement communicates supreme confidence. You are saying, without words, "I've already understood you. You are no threat." A Machiavellian gaze also serves as a defense. When others try to provoke or humiliate you, maintain eye contact with unbroken calm. Let their words fall into silence while your eyes remain still. Most people expect an emotional reaction: anger, embarrassment, denial. When you give them none, their weapon becomes useless. They feel exposed, powerless, even foolish for trying. In that moment, you own the interaction entirely. Over time, this gaze creates an aura that people remember. They will speak of your presence, even when you're not there. "There's something about the way he looks at you," they'll say, "because your eyes do not plead, they declare. They do not wonder, they command." Every meeting, every negotiation, every conversation becomes a quiet demonstration of control. To master this, you must learn to detach from need, the need to be liked, understood, or validated. The one who needs nothing has the steadiest eyes. Your gaze should reflect that inner emptiness of dependence. Machiavelli would remind you people follow those who appear certain, not those who appear kind. When your gaze reflects a man who cannot be shaken, others sense it instinctively. They may not know why, but they will feel compelled to yield. Power is not just what you say, it's how you move. Your body speaks long before your words arrive, and every gesture, every pace, every pause tells the world whether you command or obey. Machiavelli observed that great rulers could enter a room and shift the atmosphere without uttering a single sentence. Their power was not in speech, it was in presence. To forge a ruthless aura that bends others to your will, you must learn to move like one who already possesses authority. Most people move reactively. They walk fast when nervous, they fidget when uncertain, they slouch when tired. Their body betrays what their mind hides. You can see it everywhere. People apologizing with their posture, shrinking their presence, seeking permission to exist. But the Machiavellian way is the opposite. When you move, you must project certainty. You must look as if you have nowhere to rush, because time bends to your will. Every motion should feel deliberate, every step anchored in purpose. Think about how a ruler walks. He doesn't hurry, he glides. The ground seems to make way for him. His gestures are slow, measured, and calm. Why? Because rushing implies fear of being late, and fear has no place in the aura of dominance. Control over your movements signals control over your reality. People instinctively follow those who move, as if they know where they are going. Your hands, your shoulders, even your breathing, all must obey your mind. When you speak, do not wave your hands excessively. Use small, precise gestures that emphasize intention. Let your movements echo your words, not distract from them. Stillness, when mastered, becomes magnetic. When you stand without fidgeting, others become aware of their own restlessness. They start to feel the imbalance between your calm and their chaos, and they submit to your rhythm. Machiavelli would say that appearances govern the masses. Your posture, your pace, your stillness, these are your armor and your sword. To rule the space, you must act as if the space already belongs to you. Whether it's a meeting room, a hall, or a casual encounter, imagine it as your territory. Do not adapt to the energy of others. Make them adapt to yours. When you enter, pause for a moment before speaking or sitting. This pause, this subtle ownership of time, announces leadership without sound. Control also means minimizing unnecessary motion. Every twitch, every shift, every tap of the finger reveals anxiety. The ruthless aura demands precision. Move only when needed. When you turn your head, do it slowly, as if you are calculating every angle. When you gesture, make it intentional, not impulsive. Your stillness should make others restless. They should wonder what you're thinking, when you'll act, what you'll do next. That curiosity feeds your power. Even your breathing must become a tool of dominance. Breathe deeply, steadily, and quietly. When others breathe shallowly out of nervousness, your controlled breath marks the difference between their anxiety and your command. A calm breath tells the subconscious mind of everyone around you, this person is not threatened, therefore he must be the threat. Observe how leaders in history carried themselves. The Roman emperors, the Renaissance princes, even generals on the battlefield. They all understood this silent language of posture and presence. They stood upright, never slouched, their gaze fixed, their motion deliberate. When they moved, others moved with them. When they stopped, others froze. That's the invisible leash of presence. It does not pull, it draws. And never underestimate the power of stillness during conflict. When someone raises their voice, when chaos erupts, the man who remains physically composed becomes the center of control. Movement during tension reveals fear, stillness reveals dominance. The crowd will unconsciously turn toward the one who looks least disturbed, for calmness is mistaken for certainty. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand, meaning they believe what they see more than what they hear. To rule space, you must also master pace. Walk slower than the crowd, but not lazily. Each step should have rhythm, balance, and purpose. When you walk into a room, your stride should say, "I belong here." Do not shrink your body or make yourself smaller to fit in. Expand subtly. Straighten your back. Keep your shoulders open. Let your chin rise slightly. These gestures tell the mind of others that you expect to be respected. And what the human mind expects often becomes reality. When you speak, use pauses as weapons. Let silence settle between your words. Do not rush to explain yourself. When others talk quickly, their words lose power. When you speak with measured rhythm, your sentences land like commands. Your body and voice must work together to project an aura that feels untouchable. The Machiavellian body is disciplined, restrained, deliberate. It does not seek approval. It occupies space as a right, not a request. Every move, every breath, every still moment says, "I am in control of myself, and therefore of you." Power belongs to those who feel, but do not flinch. The difference between the strong and the weak is not emotion, it's control. Every man feels anger, envy, fear, and pain. But the Machiavellian mind learns to transform these storms into stillness. Emotional coldness is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of reaction. When others lose control, you must remain unmoved, calculating, and deliberate. That is where true dominance begins. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must learn how not to be good when circumstances demand it. What he meant was this: your emotions cannot be your masters. Compassion, rage, or guilt have their place, but they cannot sit on the throne of your decision-making. Most people act from emotion first and justify later. They become puppets to their own feelings. The Machiavellian ruler, however, feels the pull of emotion yet chooses when, how, and if to express it. His stillness confuses enemies and disarms manipulators. Think about how emotion is used as a weapon. People provoke you to expose your weaknesses. They insult you, they test you. They challenge your calm because they want to see if you'll crack. The moment you react, you hand them control. But when you remain composed, when your expression doesn't change, when your tone stays measured, you force them into submission without a word. Emotional coldness is not about being heartless, it's about being untouchable. This coldness must begin internally. You must become the observer of your own mind. When anger arises, do not fight it, study it. Watch it like a scientist watches fire. Ask yourself, what does this feeling want me to do? Once you see the emotion as separate from yourself, it loses power. Machiavelli's princes learned this skill early, to see through the illusion of emotion. To them, every feeling was information. Fear meant risk. Anger meant pride was wounded. Desire meant opportunity. But none of these emotions dictated their next move. Imagine someone tries to humiliate you in front of others. The natural instinct is to retaliate, to defend your pride. But if you've mastered coldness, you smile slightly or say nothing. You let silence and composure become your revenge. The room will turn not toward the one who shouted, but toward the one who stayed still. Everyone senses where the real power lies. Your restraint becomes dominance, and your calm becomes fearsome. In politics, war, or business, those who cannot control emotion are predictable. They are easy to manipulate because their reactions are known before they happen. You can anger them, flatter them, or scare them, and they will respond exactly as expected. The emotionally cold, however, cannot be read. Their face remains unreadable, their tone unchanging. You never know if they're angry or amused. That mystery alone makes them dangerous. But let's make one thing clear. Emotional coldness is not suppression. Suppression is weakness disguised as strength. It's pretending not to care while breaking inside. True coldness comes from understanding that feelings are fleeting and power is permanent. You may feel fury or betrayal, but instead of reacting, you turn that energy into strategy. You wait, you plan, you strike when it matters. Like ice, your stillness hides immense force underneath. To achieve this, you must detach your self-worth from external validation. Most emotional chaos comes from caring too much about others' opinions. You must train your mind to remain steady whether praised or insulted, trusted or betrayed. Machiavelli knew that reputation mattered, but reaction destroyed it faster than scandal ever could. If you cannot be provoked, you cannot be controlled. And the one who cannot be controlled rules the game. Even in moments of triumph, stay measured. The loudest celebrations reveal insecurity. The quietest victories inspire awe. Your enemies will fear a man who wins without smiling, who loses without flinching. That level of restraint terrifies them because it signals something beyond emotion. It signals will, a will that cannot be broken, tempted, or swayed. Emotional coldness also grants clarity. When the world panics, your calmness allows you to see patterns others miss. While people argue from emotion, you calculate from distance. That distance makes you appear otherworldly, beyond ordinary reactions. It's what gives rulers their mystique, the impression that they exist above human frailty. You must cultivate that perception carefully, not by pretending to feel nothing, but by controlling when others see what you feel. Reveal emotion strategically. Show warmth to gain trust, sorrow to gain sympathy, anger to instill fear, but only when it serves a purpose. The Machiavellian way is not to erase emotion, but to weaponize it. You must learn to command your inner fire without letting it burn you. The cold man is not empty. He is focused. He carries emotion like a blade sharp, hidden, and only drawn when victory demands it. Human beings fear what they cannot understand. They gossip, they speculate, they invent stories about what they cannot define. And this is where your power begins, in mystery. The more people think they know you, the more predictable you become. The moment you are predictable, you are controllable. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that in every court, every kingdom, every circle of influence, the ones who thrived were those who revealed only fragments of themselves. They let others wonder what they were thinking, planning, or feeling. And that uncertainty created power. Mystery is not deception, it's design. It is the deliberate choice to reveal less than what you are. The mistake most people make is believing that transparency earns trust. They open themselves too quickly, share too freely, and express every emotion like it's currency. But transparency gives people a map to your soul. And once they have that map, they know exactly how to navigate, manipulate, and weaken you. The Machiavellian approach is the opposite. You must learn to be selectively visible. Speak, but never fully explain. Smile, but never completely reveal the reason. Let people see enough to stay intrigued, but never enough to feel secure. Imagine a man who never shows all his cards. His silence, his calm, his rare smile. They all invite questions. Others whisper about his motives, debate his thoughts, and try to decode his actions. Without lifting a finger, he becomes the center of attention. People are drawn to what they cannot decipher. Mystery creates gravity. It pulls people in, not by force, but by fascination. They begin to respect you not just for what you say, but for what you don't say. This is the psychology of dominance. When people can't predict your behavior, they must prepare for every possibility. That means they act carefully around you. They avoid offending you. They treat you with a level of caution that they don't show to others. You've created a psychological imbalance. They move around you like soldiers around a sleeping lion. And the best part is, you never had to raise your voice. Mystery did it for you. To practice controlled mystery, start by managing your information. Never volunteer details about your plans, emotions, or relationships. When someone asks about your next move, respond vaguely or change the subject with elegance. If they ask for your opinion, give a thoughtful but incomplete answer, one that sounds wise but doesn't reveal your full stance. People respect what they cannot fully grasp. Even your silence can sound intelligent when others project meaning onto it. Machiavelli would remind you that people crave certainty, but power belongs to those who withhold it. The mysterious man controls the narrative because others are forced to fill the silence with their imagination. Some will think you're dangerous. Some will think you're brilliant. Some will think you're cold. Let them all be right and wrong. At the same time, it keeps them off balance, and uncertainty breeds submission. Even your appearance can serve the mystery. Dress with consistency but not exaggeration. Change small details without explanation. A different color, a subtle symbol, a sudden absence. Each variation will make people question your intent. They'll begin to see patterns that may not even exist, and in doing so, they reveal their own thoughts more than you reveal yours. That's the Machiavellian way, making others expose themselves in their attempt to read you. But mystery is not just about withholding. It's about timing. A mysterious man knows when to reveal just enough to shake assumptions. When you finally share a truth, it should land like thunder, rare, unexpected, undeniable. The contrast between your silence and your revelation gives your words double the weight. Speak rarely, act deliberately, and every move becomes unforgettable. There's also strategic value in unpredictability. When people can't predict you, they can't plan against you. Be consistent in your discipline, but unpredictable in your execution. Occasionally break your own pattern. Change your tone. Surprise them with generosity. Withdraw when they expect action. Each unpredictable gesture reinforces your mystery. People will learn that you are not governed by emotion or routine, but by something deeper. Intention. And that intention must always remain partly hidden. Never let others fully understand your goals. Let them see glimpses, enough to follow, but never the whole map. Even allies should remain slightly uncertain about where your loyalty lies, because absolute clarity breeds complacency, and complacency kills power. The greatest leaders of history, Caesar, Napoleon, the Renaissance princes, all carried that air of unpredictability. Their followers admired them, their enemies feared them, and both groups could never quite define them. To forge such mystery, you must first learn comfort in solitude. Mystery cannot exist in those who seek constant validation. The more comfortable you are being misunderstood, the more powerful your aura becomes. Because you will not chase clarity, you will let others chase you. They will wonder what drives you, what you desire, what you are truly capable of. And while they wonder, you move unseen, unjudged, and unchallenged. The silent architect of every outcome. There is a strange power in the mind of the one who knows how to transmute fear into fascination. Most men believe they must be loved to hold loyalty, but Machiavelli knew the deeper secret. Fear is the seed of respect, and fascination is the bloom that makes fear irresistible. A man who is feared may be obeyed, but a man who is both feared and admired becomes untouchable. The aura of such a person bends people to his will without command, for they no longer know whether they are drawn by reverence or trapped by awe. In every age, rulers who mastered this dual force were seen as almost supernatural. Julius Caesar entered Rome as both conqueror and savior. He was feared for his legions, but his charm disarmed envy. His enemies could not fully hate him, for they were caught in his glow. His power was not merely military, it was psychological. When he spoke, men trembled. When he smiled, they worshipped. That is the alchemy of dark psychology, to make people uncertain whether they should kneel in fear or stand in admiration. To achieve this, you must first learn control, not of others, but of yourself. The man who cannot master his own emotions will always lose control of the emotions of others. Anger must be refined into calm authority. Confidence must replace arrogance. When you walk into a room, do not seek attention. Command it by your mere presence. People can sense inner discipline. It radiates like heat. When you speak less but every word carries weight, when your movements are deliberate and your gaze unshaken, they will begin to sense something larger than life about you. The next step is unpredictability. A predictable man can be defeated, a mysterious one cannot be fully understood, and therefore cannot be easily challenged. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both fox and lion, cunning in his strategy and ferocious in his response. But the greatest mastery lies in not revealing which you are until the moment demands it. Keep your intentions wrapped in silence. Let your allies wonder how far they can trust you, and let your enemies wonder if they have underestimated you. This tension creates fascination, and fascination gives birth to power. There will come moments when you must act with ruthless precision. When you strike, do not hesitate. Indecision kills authority faster than failure. Your aura of control is built not on perfection but on conviction. People forgive those who act with strength, even in error, more readily than they forgive those who act with weakness. This is the cruel truth of human psychology. They would rather follow a tyrant who knows what he wants than a kind man who hesitates. So, when the time to act comes, act as if you were fate itself, unyielding and inevitable. To deepen this power, learn to use the mirror of perception. Humans are not ruled by reality, but by how they perceive reality. If you can shape their perception, you own their reality. Always control the story being told about you. Let whispers circulate that you are both dangerous and wise. Never correct people when they exaggerate your power. Let myth do your work. Reputation is the armor that guards your influence long before your presence arrives. There is also an art to charm. True charm is not smiles or flattery. It is the ability to make others feel the weight of your acknowledgement. When you finally offer kindness, it must feel like a gift bestowed by a king. People crave recognition from the powerful. When your approval becomes rare, it becomes sacred. Let your charm be measured, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. It must feel earned. In this way, even those who fear you will crave your validation, and that is the highest form of control. But remember, fascination is fragile. If your power becomes too cold, people will rebel in silence. If it becomes too warm, they will forget their fear. Balance is the secret. Maintain just enough distance that your authority feels unreachable. Yet allow glimpses of humanity that make your dominance desirable. A ruler must never let his people grow entirely comfortable with him. Comfort breeds equality, and equality kills influence. When you reach this point, your presence alone will command silence. Men will measure their words in your company, not because you demanded it, but because your aura demands it for you. You will no longer need to assert power. Your existence will assert it for you. Fear will have turned into fascination, and fascination into loyalty that no argument can break. Machiavelli would have smiled at this transformation. For the one who understands that power is not seized but shaped through discipline, mystery, and the alchemy of the mind, becomes something greater than feared. He becomes inevitable. Conclusion: the birth of the ruthless aura. Power is never granted, it is forged, layer by layer, within the fire of intention and the chill of restraint. What you've learned through these 6 laws of Machiavellian psychology is not mere strategy, it is transformation. The art of bending people to your will begins not with domination, but with construction, building an image so composed, so controlled, that others feel smaller in its presence. When you master detachment, you no longer react. You dictate the rhythm of every exchange. When you learn to weaponize silence, people project your power onto you. When you train your emotional control, you become an unmovable mountain in a world of trembling voices. When you embrace selective ruthlessness, you teach others that mercy from you is privilege, not weakness. When you dominate perception, you make illusions stronger than truth. And finally, when you turn fear into fascination, you reach the highest form of mastery, where obedience is not demanded, but voluntarily given. This is the Machiavellian ideal, not the tyrant who shouts, but the sovereign who commands without words, the one whose very aura makes others recalibrate their behavior, their tone, even their ambition. To forge such an aura is not a matter of cruelty, but of clarity. It is to understand that in this world, respect follows strength, and strength begins with self-control. So, walk as though the world already bends to you. Speak as though silence is your ally. Act as though hesitation has never known your name. Because once you embody the discipline, mystery, and poise that few possess, your presence will no longer need explanation. It will define the atmosphere itself. That is how you become untouchable. That is how you forge an aura so ruthless, it bends people to your will.